It's no secret that there's a housing shortage in the US. According to Zillow, the US has a deficit of 4.7 million homes. This has resulted in 8.1 million American families sharing homes with unrelated families, as neither of them can afford a home on their own. According to Pew Research, almost 1/3 of American households spend more than 30% of their income on housing. One potential solution is prefabricated tiny homes. Boxabl is a Las Vegas-based startup founded in 2017. They plan to build tiny homes in a factory that costs only $60,000. Starting around 2022, Boxabl received an unprecedented amount of attention on social media for a startup of its size. The company has almost 1 million followers on Instagram. If you look up Boxabl on YouTube, you can see many big-name YouTubers who've made videos about the company. Inez Plus made a video about Boxabl that got 15 million views. One of Boxabl's own videos got 7 million views. Graham Stephan got 3 million views on his Boxabl videos. The title is Touring Elon Musk's $50,000 Home. Elon Musk actually has nothing to do with Boxabl, yet unwittingly became one of the key drivers of Boxabl's social media hype. Boxabl has parlayed this success into one of the most successful crowdfunding campaigns in history. To date, they've raised approximately $140 million from retail investors through crowdfunding at a valuation of more than $3 billion. On August 5, 2025, Boxabl announced it will be going public by merging with a SPAC. Despite the company's success in fundraising, its operational performance has been underwhelming. To date, they've built 718 tiny homes, of which only 279 have been delivered to customers, and there have been reports of serious quality issues. In this video, we'll look at how Boxabl parlayed viral social media hype into a $3 billion valuation, and why this might not end well for investors. Boxabl was founded in 2017 by the father-son duo Paulo and Giuliano Tiramani. Before founding Boxabl, Paulo led an intellectual property licensing company. Giuliano started a Bitcoin ATM business and was involved in the legal cannabis industry. Boxabl's idea was to create tiny homes in a factory, using the same assembly line and mass production concepts used in automobile manufacturing. This will increase labor efficiency and thus reduce costs. The homes are small enough that they can be folded up and transported by semi-trucks. Boxabl argues that this will be much cheaper than traditional construction methods, where homes are made by hand on site. They call their tiny homes casitas. The smallest version is 361 square feet, so about the size of a very small studio apartment. At first they said it would cost $50,000. The price has subsequently been raised to $60,000. In 2021, Boxabl raised approximately $30 million by selling convertible bonds. They used this money to build a factory in the Las Vegas area. Boxabl claims that this factory has the capacity to build one casita every 90 minutes, or 3,600 per year. Boxabl's first major customer was the US Department of Defense. The DoD was planning to host trials for inmates held at the Guantanamo Bay Detention Center. If such a trial were to take place, they would need to fly in lawyers and jurors to the island. The detention center lacked accommodation for this, so they decided to purchase 156 casitas from Boxabl, which were delivered in 2022. Once delivered, each casita was only supposed to take 1 hour to assemble. The assembly ended up taking months. The casitas were not properly waterproof and started leaking during heavy rains. They had to hammer plastic sheeting on top of the roofs to prevent leakage. This is all according to the New York Times. In 2021, SpaceX was rapidly expanding its facilities in Boca Chica, Texas, where they manufacture their Starship rocket ships. As their headcount in Boca Chica swelled, there became a shortage of residential real estate in the local area. In June of 2021, Musk tweeted that he was living in a $50,000 tiny home in Boca Chica. According to the publication NDTV, Boxabl published a blog post on their website claiming that Musk's tiny house was a Boxabl casita. This created a huge amount of buzz on social media. Boxabl subsequently deleted this blog post. So why did they delete it? Just a few months later, Musk tweeted that the $50,000 house he mentioned was not a Boxabl, so there was a lot of confusion as to whether or not Musk even owned a Boxabl. On August 4, 2022, Elon Musk appeared on the Full Send podcast. The host asked him about the rumors that he lived in a Boxabl. Musk explained that he bought a very small house in Boca Chica for $45,000. This was a regular house, not a prefab, and not a Boxabl. This is where he normally stays when visiting the Starship facility. He said he does own a Boxabl prototype, but he does not live in it. On August 5th, just one day after Musk's appearance on the Full Send podcast, Boxabl published a YouTube video titled Delivering Elon Musk's Boxabl Casita. It indeed shows them delivering and assembling a casita at the premises of a SpaceX facility. But there are a few things to take note of. There does not appear to be any plumbing or sewage. It appears to be connected to a diesel generator for electricity. So it can be supplied with electricity, but at great cost. Due to the lack of plumbing, nobody can live in this house. Its purpose is unclear. It looks more like a publicity stunt than anything else. This is presumably the casita Musk was referring to in the Full Send podcast. This whole thing is a bit confusing, so let's look at the timeline of events. In June of 2021, Musk claims he is living in a $50,000 house in Boca Chica. In October of 2021, Boxabl published a blog post saying Elon Musk's tiny house is a Boxabl casita. This blog post was subsequently deleted. In November of 2021, Elon Musk said his $50,000 house in Boca Chica is not a Boxabl. At some point prior to August 2022, Boxabl delivers a casita to SpaceX's facility in Boca Chica. In August of 2022, Musk confirmed on the Full Send podcast that he owns a Boxabl prototype, but does not live in it. We don't have full information, but based on the timeline of events, we can make some inferences. In October 2021, Boxabl's blog post was highly misleading, if not an outright lie. Musk exposed this lie in November of 2021. Seeing this PR disaster, it likely became a top priority for Boxabl to deliver a casita to SpaceX. They subsequently convinced SpaceX to accept delivery of a casita, but this appears to have been little more than a publicity stunt. This whole Elon Musk narrative is basically a farce, but many social media influencers have run with it because it makes for good clickbait. For example, the popular personal finance YouTuber Graham Stephan visited Boxabl's factory in early 2023. The video was titled "Touring Elon Musk's $50,000 tiny home" and included a photoshopped picture of Stephan standing next to Musk. If you look at Boxabl's YouTube channel, you'd be forgiven if you thought they were a social media operation as opposed to a construction company. For example, they published a publicity stunt where they had a Tesla and a Lamborghini towing their casitas. They also have a video titled "Tesla Secret Revealed by Boxabl CEO." It's a 1-minute video where Paulo talks about Tesla's Optimus robot. Generating social media buzz was very important for Boxabl. To date, they've relied primarily on equity crowdfunding. Crowdfunding allows non-accredited retail investors to invest in private companies. In 2021, they raised $30 million by selling convertible bonds to institutional investors. They also started equity crowdfunding, but only raised about $5 million from this source in 2021. In 2022, they raised an eye-popping $95 million from crowdfunding. This was at the height of the Elon Musk hype. In 2023 and 2024, they raised about $15 million. Boxabl's equity structure is a bit complicated. The shares that they sell in the crowdfunding are non-voting preferred stock. These are economically identical to common stock, except they don't have voting rights. The founders, Paulo and Giuliano Tiramani, collectively own 99.8% of the common stock. No matter how many preferred shares they sell to retail investors, they maintain complete voting control over the company. Boxabl used the crowdfunding proceeds to build out its factory, as well as to pay for their corporate overhead. With crowdfunding, there is no liquid secondary market, so the share price is determined by the company itself. This makes the valuation somewhat arbitrary. In their 2024 crowdfunding campaign, they sold shares for 80 cents each. This gave Boxabl a valuation of more than $3 billion. This is a pretty steep valuation considering that their property, plant, and equipment was only valued at $9 million, and they only generated $3.4 million of revenue that year. Crowdfunding is not only a way for Boxabl to raise money, but also a way for the founders to cash out. In February of 2024, Giuliano and Paulo Tiramani each sold 6.25 million of their own shares, netting approximately $5 million for each of them. There's nothing inherently wrong for a founder to sell some of their shares in a startup, but this is generally viewed as a red flag, as it may indicate that the founders believe the shares to be overvalued. And it's not like the Tiramanis needed the money. They pay themselves cash salaries of approximately $900,000 per year. The CFO, a man named Martin Costas, was paid more than $10.5 million in 2024. Only about $500,000 of this was cash, with $10 million being paid in stock. An 8-figure salary is a bit excessive for a company with $3 million of revenue and 167 employees. The CFO was paid more than 3 times the company's revenue for that year. Boxabl has incurred operating losses since inception, and revenue to date has been minuscule. In 2022, they generated $11 million of revenue. This was mostly from their Guantanamo Bay contract. Their revenue declined to almost nothing in 2023. This is because they lacked permits to sell the casitas to residential customers. The Boxabl casita finally received modular housing approval in Arizona during December of 2023, followed by New Mexico and California in 2024. In 2024, they sold 51 casitas, generating $3.4 million of revenue. Boxabl claims to have many thousands of customer reservations, but they faced many delays in fulfilling these orders. Most states require various dealer and installer licenses, which Boxabl lacks, so they have to contract with third-party installers. It's taken them a long time to build up a network of licensed installers, thus causing delays in customer deliveries. Boxabl first advertised that its casitas would cost $50,000. They subsequently raised the price to $60,000, citing inflation. But if you want to live in a casita, the total cost will be much higher than this. First of all, the casita doesn't come with land, so you will need to buy or rent whatever land it will be placed on. Boxabl also charges a transportation cost of between $3 and $10 per mile. You then have to pay to get utilities hooked up. According to tinyhouseplans.com, the cost of transportation, site prep, and utilities is between $20,000 and $60,000. Assuming you also need to pay $10,000 or so for the land, a typical casita buyer can likely expect to pay well over $100,000 in total. $100,000 for 361 square feet isn't that cheap. Boxabl claims that its factory system is far cheaper than traditional construction methods, but this is debatable. According to the National Association of Home Builders, the average sales price of a newly built single-family home in the United States was $665,000, of which $428,000 was construction costs. The average size is 2,647 square feet, so the construction cost is $162 per square foot. In 2024, Boxabl sold 51 casitas at an average price of $66,200 each. Their cost of goods sold was $294,000, so they incurred a gross loss of $227,000 per casita. The atrocious gross margins can mostly be blamed on poor capacity utilization. They only sold 51 casitas when their factory's maximum capacity is supposed to be 3,600. The fixed costs of the factory are spread out across a very small number of units. Boxabl disaggregates its cost of goods sold into direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Direct material and labor costs will scale linearly as production increases. These are variable costs. In 2024, direct materials and labor costs were $66,300 per casita. That's slightly greater than the average sale price of $66,200. Because the variable costs are higher than the sale price, they will never achieve gross profitability, even if they do ramp up production. Each casita is only 361 square feet, so Boxabl's variable manufacturing cost is $184 per square foot. Earlier, we calculated that the average construction cost for single-family homes in the United States is $162 per square foot. Boxabl's factory is actually more expensive than traditional construction methods. The story of Boxabl shows how a startup, with a business model that's probably not viable, was nonetheless able to leverage social media hype to raise over $100 million from retail investors. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video. What do you think about Boxabl? Let us know in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you in the next one. Wall Street Millennial, signing out.